Hi guys, welcome and who dat? I'm Joe. Welcome to Rosenfield 10, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. We are right before the third preseason game, and then we're going to cut down to 53, and then we wait a week, and then the regular season starts September 5th against the Carolina Panthers. So, where are we at right now? Yeah, we don't see a lot in preseason, and I don't think we're really going to get a good gauge on how good this team is until well into the regular season. We're going to have mixed results, I'm sure, and we're playing teams that are as bad as the Panthers and that are as good as the Chiefs in those first 6 games. And yeah, I'm hoping we're 3-3 because there are 3 divisional games in the first 6 games. And if we can come out of that at least 3-3, then we've either swept our division or we've managed to beat the Cowboys, the Eagles, or the Chiefs. And so if we sweep our division, you can feel pretty good. If we beat either the Cowboys, the Eagles, or the Chiefs, then you can feel pretty good. And then that 7th game is against Sean Payton's Denver Broncos. So that's how I'm looking at it right now. Not sure what we're going to be. I mean, if we come out and look awful against the Panthers, that's going to tell us we're not that good, but they're a divisional team. And then if we go to Dallas and beat them, well, maybe Dallas hasn't put it all together this year yet. So, you can't really be too high or too low about any of it. But whatever happens in the regular season, that's what's going to go down in history. That's going to be the facts of the matter. So, which 53 players are we going to take with us on this 2024 journey? Well, normally I have visual aids and I would pull up my projected offense and defense. Still a couple of weeks away before that can happen. So I will tell you, and you don't have to add anything up. It's all going to come to 53 players, and I'm going to tell you where I have my biggest questions. So at quarterback, we're going to keep 3 of them: Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener. As far as who's the backup, well, it doesn't really matter as long as Carr's healthy, he's playing. That's going to be Dennis Allen's decision, I'm sure. And if something does happen, it depends on the extent of the injury with Carr. But I believe either way, you keep Haener and Rattler. You don't expose either one of them to the waiver wire or the practice squad. And are we good enough at backup quarterback? Well, yeah, I think we've got 2 quarterbacks that can run this offense. I think we have one in Spencer Rattler who can make things happen, spontaneously, and just has a little to learn to be a better overall, quarterback that I can trust. Jake Haener, on the other hand, is a quarterback that I can trust as far as processing, but then he doesn't have the physical tools of a Rattler. So if things break down, I'm not sure what I'm going to get from Haener. He's a spunk, though. He can run. He can throw on the move, I'm sure. I'm sure with Derek Carr, we're not going to be this great juggernaut. So I'm not too worried about the backup quarterback position, but you're going to keep 3. I'm not counting Taysom Hill here. I mean, Taysom Hill is going to be a player on this team. You can put him wherever you want. 4th quarterback, 2nd fullback, or 4th halfback, or 7th wide receiver, or 4th tight end. I mean, you can put him on the roster anywhere you want. His real position is football player, and Taysom Hill's definitely making this team. At running back, we're going to keep Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, and I believe Jordan Mims. And with Jordan Mims comes a stipulation. My hope is that we put Kendre Miller on IR to start the season. And this is something I said this a week ago. And I heard Ross say it last night. I'm like, that's exactly what I think they should do. And it is. And I think everyone is starting to echo this sentiment that you put Kendre Miller on IR for 4 games to start the season. You can put 2 players on IR, 4-game IR. and you can have them return to practice for a total of 3 weeks before they have to be activated. So you start Kendre Miller on the 4-game IR, and hopefully he can start to practice, and then you have him show what he can do at practice for 3 weeks, and you're going to have Jordan Mims on the roster, and in the regular season games he probably won't get too much work if Kamara and Williams and Taysom Hill are doing good at running back. So you might see Jordan Mims pop up here and there, but it's going to be Kendre Miller's chance to show whether he deserves a spot on this roster or not, and it's all going to be through practice. He's going to have to learn the offense. I think when it's all said and done, Miller is a better player than Mims. He's a better physical specimen, and higher ceiling, all that stuff. But we'll see. So you put Miller on IR, and after 4 weeks, you elevate Miller to the active roster, and then you put Mims on the practice squad. So that's how I think this is going to work. But to start the season, Jordan Mims will be there, and Miller on IR. At fullback, I don't know what you do. You have Taysom Hill, and that's great. Right now, we've released Xander Horvath, and Adam Prentice is the only fullback outside of Taysom Hill on the roster. I don't think Prentice fits into what we're going to do with the fullback 100%. But there are things Prentice does that's better than what Horvath can do, which is basically just straight up run block. And Horvath is a better player on the move and moving around and catching the ball and stuff like that. But Horvath isn't a good straight up blocker. So I don't know what we're going to do at fullback. Right now I have Adam Prentice penciled in since he's the one on the roster. But there is the chance we put Prentice on the practice squad and bring Horvath back. If no one claims Horvath, and I guess he's available right now, he'll end up on our practice squad or Prentice, either one. So that's where I'm at fullback. At wide receiver, I think it's pretty clear at this point. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Wilson. Are we going to keep 5 or 6? I'm leaning towards keeping 6. We have too many questions, and we may need a different type of wide receiver going into every game. I don't know. Olave, Shaheed, Wilson are the 3 that I'm set on. I believe we're also going to keep A.T. Perry and Bub Means, and that'll make 5 wide receivers. Tipton showed us a lot, but he hasn't been involved in the preseason games. He looked good in practices and then hurt himself right before preseason started. So Tipton's a guy you can keep on the practice squad. And you also have a guy like Samson Nacua, who is showing so much at practice but is not getting played in the preseason games, and everyone covering the team thinks it's weird, and they all are pretty much in a consensus that we're hiding Puka Nacua's brother so that the rest of the league doesn't know what we have. So we're doing that even though this guy's been in the league for years and nobody really wanted him. I guess a lot of teams could just slap him on the practice squad. So are we hiding Nacua because he's our secret 6th wide receiver, or are we hiding Nacua because we want to stash him on the practice squad and not have to worry about it? That's my question for the number 6 wide receiver. So you get Olave, Shaheed, Wilson, Perry, Means, and then who's number 6? Do we keep a special teams guy like Morgan, Stanley Morgan? Do we keep a guy like Equanimeous St. Brown because of his run blocking ability and his frame? Do we keep a guy like Samson Nacua because he's really good at playing wide receiver? Or, for that matter, Mason Tipton, who I said in my undrafted rookie free agent video that Mason Tipton could make this team based solely as a wide receiver. He also has some return abilities. We haven't seen any of that, though, in preseason because he hasn't been able to play. So that spot's kind of up in the air. So right now my caveats are backup halfback. Like I said, you keep Mims, Perry, Kendre Miller on IR, and then after 4 weeks, maybe you do a switcheroo and put Mims on the practice squad. and bring up Miller. At fullback, either one. Prentice or Horvath are going to probably take a back seat to Taysom Hill most of the time. And then a number 6 wide receiver, who could be any number of players, but I think you need to pencil in A.T. Perry and Bub Means to go behind the ones in ink, which are Olave, Shaheed, and Wilson. Yeah, right now I'm leaning towards Nacua as that 6 wide receiver because we're hiding him for a good reason. Hopefully the guy can run block. Hopefully he can show something on special teams. But yeah, that's one spot still open. At tight end, we're going to keep 3 besides Taysom Hill. And that's going to be Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, of course. And then number 3, I'm assuming, will be Dallin Holker. Michael Jacobson will be on the practice squad, and he can probably give you something similar to Holker. But I think Dallin Holker should be that number 3 guy. He's too high profile of an undrafted player, I think, to survive waivers and be able to just sit on our practice squad. All right, offensive line. I think let's just go with the 5 penciled in starters for now. Fuaga at left tackle, Lucas Patrick at left guard, Eric McCoy at center, Cesar Ruiz right guard, Trevor Penning at right tackle. Now I know Landon Young can play left tackle and right tackle. He's been on our team this whole time since we drafted him. This is his final year of his rookie contract, so I think Landon Young definitely stays. He was surprisingly effective in the times he's had to be featured on the starting lineup, whether in regular season or, this past week's preseason game. He's not good, but he's adequate. But Trevor Penning can be good, but usually you're just hoping for average. And what you're hoping for is he doesn't lose so many times that it really affects the game. There were games when Trevor Penning started last year and we won the games, the first 2 games of the regular season. I'll remind you of that. We went 2-0 to start the season. Trevor Penning was our offensive tackle. It was rough. But now Oli Udoh is getting a lot of reps at right tackle. We've tried Udoh out at left guard, left tackle, right guard, and right tackle. He's been playing all those positions. And it seems like a big shock that he's taking first team reps right now to a lot of people covering the Saints. And I'm just here to say, Oli Udoh was hurt early on in the process, and right now he's just learning everything. He's been practicing for the last couple of weeks. He's been practicing pretty much since preseason started. But he missed out on a lot of the OTAs and mini camps. And so to me, I think we finally decided, okay, he's learned the offense. We've bounced him around the 4 different positions. His best position to me is obviously tackle. And we need a right tackle. We definitely need at least a backup right tackle. If Landon Young has to start at left tackle, we need a right tackle. So that's why Oli Udoh is getting a lot of attention there right now. I think when it's all said and done, backup right tackle is where Oli Udoh needs to be. But I have that circled. We're going to keep Young as a backup tackle, but I think there's a chance we acquire another offensive tackle. Either after all the cuts, or maybe we trade a third day pick to a team for a tackle that they know they're going to cut, that they can get something for, that we know is going to be better than what we have. The people are saying right now, if we trade for a guy, he's not going to be a great guy. But if we trade for a guy, chances are he's going to be better than what we already have. Yeah, we're trading for somebody that nobody else is really jumping up and down for. Well, nobody else is in the situation we're in. And it brings me back to all the videos I did about the draft. I thought we needed to address offensive tackle at least twice early. Not getting Azarium with the 7th round pick, a guy no one ever heard before. He's going to end up on our practice squad. He's not an option. The man's only been playing offensive tackle for 2 years his whole life. So yeah, that kind of thing is fine, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to address offensive line 2, maybe 3 times in the draft because we just aren't good enough at the depth. And yeah, you almost feel like a 5th-round pick or 6th-round pick would have a chance to make this team because we're so weak there. So I've got Oli Udoh circled. He's going to be our backup right tackle to start unless we feel like his veteran, moxie is going to win out in the end over what Trevor Penning gives you ceiling-wise. Because Trevor Penning, if he just puts it all together physically, he'll be a good tackle. Average to good tackle. But he can't put it all together in his head. So we're not cutting Trevor Penning. We're keeping him either way. So that's my caveat for tackle. We're keeping Landon Young as the 3rd tackle, and we're probably going to keep a 4th. And it's probably going to be Oli Udoh because he can play guard too. And if you trade for somebody, chances are they'll be better than Landon Young or Oli Udoh. So keep that in mind. And at guard, well, Saldiveri is the big question here. Nick Saldiveri's been hurt. We've had to play Lucas Patrick as our starter. Patrick can play center as well. So I think we keep Lucas Patrick either way. Whether Saldiveri could beat out Patrick to start at left guard or not. Patrick can play center and guard, and he's been our starting left guard all preseason. So does Saldiveri start the season on IR? That's a possibility. And then he can do the same thing Miller is going to have to do. Use 3 weeks of practice while still on IR to try to prove that you're worthy of a spot. And I think if you keep Saldiveri, he's going to have to be a swing player. Now, Saldiveri caught the Saints' attention at the Senior Bowl the year that he was drafted by the Saints because he was asked to play center for the first time in his life, and he went out there and played center for the game and looked good. And the Saints felt like, well, here's a tackle in college who we know is going to play guard, and now he's out here playing center. So Saldiveri has the potential to be a really good backup at the very least if it all comes to fruition. He couldn't crack the starting lineup last year. He was a healthy scratch or injured last year. So that's my caveat for guard. I think Kyle Hergel, the undrafted rookie, is definitely going to make it as a backup guard. He's getting time at right guard and left guard right now. He's getting some playing time in practice as a starting left guard because Lucas Patrick had to leave with cramps this week during practice. So welcome back to Louisiana. So Kyle Hergel is going to make the team, and I think whoever's going to be the other backup guard, and I do believe we're going to keep that many. So your 5 starters, and then I believe 4 backups. I think you need to keep 9 offensive linemen altogether. And whoever you keep at that last guard spot's going to have to play center too. So Nick Saldiveri, if that's you, Kyle Hergel, Nick Saldiveri, that's what it seems like it should be. One of you is going to have to play center. Because if McCoy goes down, you'll have to move Ruiz from a starting spot. You don't want to do that. But Patrick's your only guy that can play backup center right now. So you'll have to move Patrick, and somebody's going to have to start at left guard. So Saldiveri and Hergel are going to have to make themselves useful. They're going to have to be good enough to start at left guard if they're not flexible enough to play center. Now, Shane Lemieux is, the wild card here. He can play center and guard, and he showed this past preseason game that he can struggle at center. But he is a veteran, and he can play center and guard. So I believe you start the year with Shane Lemieux as your 9th offensive lineman and Saldiveri on IR. Now, you can only keep 2 people on the 4-game IR, so what does that mean for Tano Passanio? If he's put on permanent IR, then he's done for the year. And so that's going to be the question. Who goes on permanent IR? Saldiveri, Miller, Passanio. If we keep Saldiveri off of IR and he's on the active roster, then, Shane Lemieux's on the practice squad or looking for a job. All right, on defense, we're going to go with defensive ends: Carl Granderson, Chase Young, Cameron Jordan, Peyton Turner, Isaiah Foskey. I don't want to keep Foskey, but we have to. And Peyton Turner, I don't expect to stay healthy. So at some point, we're probably going to have to entertain some other defensive end throughout the year. I think we keep Trajan Jeffcoat on the practice squad for sure, and Nico Lelos. So you'll have a couple of practice squad options to bring up if Foskey crashes and burns and he doesn't show anything on special teams either, or if Peyton Turner ends up hurt. But other than that, that's your 5 ends: Granderson, Young, Jordan, Turner, Foskey. Your defensive tackles will be Brian Bresee, Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, and our draft pick, Christian Boyd. I think you keep Jack Heflin on the practice squad. And there you go. That's how I feel about the interior. If Bresee is good enough to play well against the run, then let him start. And if he's got to start ahead of Saunders because Nathan Shepard plays too good, he's better than Saunders, then yeah, our middle of the defensive line is going to be Brian Bresee and Nathan Shepard. And I kind of peg both of them as 3 techs, but Brian Bresee is showing he can do it all. So if he gets better against the run, for sure. All right, linebackers, I think we'll keep 6. We're definitely keeping Demario Davis, Pete Werner, Willie Gay. That's 3. Anthony Orji and DeMarco Jackson will be 4 and 5. Orji for sure. Jackson has been featured as the backup middle linebacker this whole time. If you don't keep DeMarco Jackson, you're flirting with keeping your draft pick, Jalen Ford, who hasn't had a chance to practice. He was able to get in the first preseason game, but he didn't have any practice, so he didn't really know anything. And then he gets hurt before the second game, before he can really get to practicing. I have a lot of faith Jalen Ford will be a very good linebacker in this league. But for right now, I say you wave Ford, put him on the practice squad. No one's seen what he can really do so far. And you keep Orji and Jackson as 4 and 5. And as number 6, that is still to be determined. Khaleke Hudson has the lead. I didn't see anything from Monty Rice this past game, but Monty Rice is also an option there. And, there's still the option of keeping Ford as your number 6 linebacker. I believe Ford's going to be good at special teams too. And just keeping Hudson and Monty Rice on the practice squad. So I'm up in the air when it comes to that 6th linebacker spot. But I'm positive it's going to be Demario Davis, Pete Werner, Willie Gay, Anthony Orji, and DeMarco Jackson. And your 6th one can either be the draft pick Ford or the 2 special team ace veterans who can play multiple positions. And that would be Monty Rice or Khaleke Hudson. Right now I have penciled in Khaleke Hudson with Ford on the practice squad. And then finally, the secondary. Last year we kept 5 safeties and 4 cornerbacks. And I think this year it's going to be similar. The 4 cornerbacks will be Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, Alontae Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, everyone likes Rico Payton, but is Rico Payton doing anything for us on special teams? And how important is it to have this extra defensive back if all Rico can do is play outside corner? So maybe Rico needs some time to develop into a nickel, possibly highlight as a safety. Sean Payton, God. Dennis Allen loves his secondary players. And so I think the 4 cornerbacks are for sure, with Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor, McKinstry, and then you go to safety. Tyrann Mathieu, your starter, and then you've got 3 potential starters next to Mathieu. People are saying, well, it's probably either going to be Jordan Howden or Jonathan Abram. I'm actually leaning towards Will Harris to be that starter next to Mathieu. And Howden and Abram will get their fair share of play, and ultimately I want it to be Howden. But right now, Will Harris, who can play nickel, outside corner, and safety, is lining up to be a really good pick for us. So 4 cornerbacks, 4 safeties, and who's going to be the extra DB? Is it going to be Rico Payton with his abilities at cornerback, or will it be a guy like Ugo Amadi, who can start at nickel for us, is a safety, and can play outside corner as well? Oh, by the way, I'm also forgetting about JT Gray. So JT Gray is a special teams ace. So Ugo Amadi or JT Gray or Rico Payton to grab that 9th DB spot. Yeah, that's how it's going to come down. And that's a tough one. Right now, I'm leaning towards Ugo Amadi. I think we've addressed a lot of free agents have special teams abilities. We're not sure exactly what we're looking for in the new kickoff special teams rules as well. So right now, instead of JT Gray, I'm leaning towards Ugo Amadi with Rico Payton on the practice squad. And then, of course, your final three, which makes up 53, will be long snapper Zach Wood, kicker Blake Grupe, and punter Lou Hedley. Now, I would drop Hedley and go get a free agent. If the guy kicking for the Cardinals in our preseason game, if that was their backup punter, that's the guy I'm going to get. I'll trade a 7th-round pick for him right now because that guy showed me he could kick long and he can pin you inside the 5 every time. I know Abrams should have returned those kicks, those punts, but the punts were still brilliant. And yeah, that's what I would do. I would put Hayball on the practice squad if you keep a punter on a practice squad, and I would go get this guy from Arizona. Either way, I'm not convinced Hedley's the guy or Hayball. So for punter, I've kind of got in parentheses a free agent, somebody else. If that was Arizona's backup punter, let's go get him because he was good. He's way better than Hedley. I hope he can hold a place kick because, let's go get him. And the reason why I say we keep Blake Grupe is because Charlie Smith hasn't had a chance to show much of anything. We don't have to keep Smith, I don't think, on the practice squad because he can count as a roster player without counting against the 53-man because of his situation of being an international program guy. So I believe you keep Charlie Smith on the active roster and he doesn't count as a roster spot. And if he manages to beat out Grupe and he takes Grupe's place, then you have an extra roster spot. And if you get rid of Blake Grupe, that's the beauty of that. So if you keep Smith, you get rid of Grupe, then all of a sudden you've got an extra roster spot. You can go grab somebody else. You can go grab Horvath and Prentice, or you can keep Ugo Amadi and JT Gray, or you can have, an extra player wherever, halfback, wherever. So, all right, so that's my breakdown of what I think is going to happen with the Saints. I wish I could have had a visual aid for you guys, but my biggest questions are, what do you do at halfback? You keep Jordan Mims, you put Miller on IR. After 4 weeks, we do a switcheroo perhaps and put Mims on the practice squad. Another question is fullback, Prentice or Horvath. Either way, Hill's going to be featured there frequently. Your 6th wide receiver, after Olave, Shaheed, Wilson, Perry, and Means, can be a myriad of players. Nacua, St. Brown, I forgot about Austin. Then you've got Mason Tipton. So that can go either way. I'm leaning towards Nacua. And I really hope we see Tipton in this last preseason game. But, if we see him and he's great, everybody else is going to see him too. At tight end, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Dallin Holker, and Taysom Hill will be featured there. Your starting offensive line, Fuaga, Patrick, McCoy, Ruiz, Penning. Your backup tackle, Landon Young, and either Oli Udo or a free agent. And your backup guards will probably be Nick Saldiveri and Kyle Hergel. And if Saldiveri's not ready to go, you put him on IR. You keep Shane Lemieux until Saldiveri's ready because Lemieux can play center, albeit maybe not that well. There's also the chance for getting a free agent guard if Saldivary's not ready to go and we're sick of Lemieux. And then the defensive line and linebackers, I think, are pretty set. Linebacker, you do have that question of whether you keep Jaylan Ford or whether you keep a veteran in Khaleke Hudson or Monty Rice. So that's your big question there. And in the secondary, I think lines up pretty good with Will Harris, Jordan Howden, Jonathan Abram, and Tyrann Mathieu at safety. Lattimore, Debo, Taylor, McKinstry at cornerback. And then the extra DB is going to have to be player's choice. Ugo Amadi, JT Gray, Rico Payton. I'm leaning towards Amadi. And in your 3 special teamers, your punter is probably going to be a player not on the team right now. And the IR is tricky. I think the 4-game IRs will be Kendre Miller and Nick Saldivari, and Tano Passanio is going to be lost for the season. And in your practice squad players should be Rico Payton at cornerback, Millard Bradford at safety, Jaylan Ford at linebacker, Mason Tipton at wide receiver, Ezram at offensive tackle. You keep Mark Evans at offensive line and keep developing him. Michael Jacobson at tight end, Jack Heflin at defensive tackle. Keep the wide receiver Austin if you can. The running back James Robinson would be great on our practice squad, along with Jacob Kabodi. And whatever wide receiver we're not keeping, whether it's Nakua or Equiminius St. Brown or Stanley Morgan, you keep one of them on your practice squad as well. So there you go. That's a lot of practice squad players, but it's not all of them. You got to keep extra spots for people that are getting cut that we're going to claim and all this stuff. And there you go. I hope you liked it. Sorry I couldn't have any whistles and bells here. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about the Saints, and I'll be up and running with better videos before the 3rd week of the regular season. That's my goal. Let's see if I can keep it. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?